All right. Well, obviously, after watching that game, a lot of positive things on really all three phases, but especially, and obviously, we sat here a week ago and talked about the offense, and everybody had questions about the O-line and what we're doing. I thought those guys answered the bell 10 times over. Thought their preparation all week gave me an indication that was going to happen, and then you put on the film after the game, and you see that. We give out a couple MVPs, but two guys that led the charge up there up front, J.C. Davis and Josh Geske, left tackle, left guard, were probably played as good as I've seen them play together. Cruci did a lot of really good things as well. Brandon Henderson played a good game. He had the one holding call, which was kind of silly, but and then Melvin jumped off sides and won. But really, those five guys played together as good as I've seen them play. I thought it was interesting in the post game too. I saw Josh give a lot of credit to Bart, and I did single him out, and I thought Barry had a very creative, very engaging game plan. Obviously, Lou played at a high level, but to incorporate Hank Beatty the way he did, to incorporate all three of the running backs, obviously the two disappointing fumbles low, but to see Caden get that screenplay hit was a big deal. To see him roll 20 miles an hour down the sideline over there was pretty awesome. I do think Aiden Lawfrey was cleared and ready and did play, but I think this week will be another step forward for him, which is really good timing for us. And then the growth of our wide receiver room, and really the tight ends played pretty good as well. Tyner Arkin, my favorite day of the day was Christian Abney, got a hold of one of their outside backers and made a statement, which was fun to watch on the field as well as game time. So the good news is we won that one, but we put it to bed and moved on. Purdue's a very unique challenge, obviously a game that means a lot. One of our crossover games that is permanent. Obviously play for the Cannon, a long time history of that, and to have that in our hands right now, we obviously are going to do everything we can to keep it. Huge respect for Barry. Barry and I go way back. I was a head coach of Arkansas when he was at Missouri, so I've known him for a really long time. Had a lot of crossover with coaches. A guy I really respect the way he talks, walks, and the way he thinks. Last year during his run at UNLV, I would hit him on a weekly basis, just super respectful of who he is and what he is. So I know we got a tremendous challenge to go over there and play another Big Ten game, but it's awesome. This is game number 6 for us, opportunity number 6. I challenged our guys yesterday that you should have 5 weeks behind you that have helped prepare you for this week, regardless of whether we had success or failure. 4 opportunities to win, 1 loss. We took those Sundays and move forward. We got to take these Mondays and get ourselves in a good recovery. We got to have a great Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, a travel day on Friday, and obviously an early game on Saturday. So from an injury standpoint, really the biggest concern I had was, obviously Matt Bailey, but I think he's going to be more than okay. We haven't practiced yet, but he should be good to go. And Daniel Brown, I know he hadn't played the last couple of weeks. I think he's probably still a week away. There is a chance, but be an outside chance. Tanner Heckle is fine. He's just going to have a taped wrist job here for a little bit. And Aiden Lawfrey, all the guys that were kind of restricted during the week and cleared. Aiden Lawfrey, Bowick, I'm trying to think. There's probably one more guy. Jaheim Clark went from not being able to do anything to playing 80 snaps. Go figure, right? So it is what it is. But and Jaheim actually played a pretty good game. That was a very challenging offense to go against, and I thought he really stepped up to the challenge in a big way. And actually, Sabor Kareem came in there and did some really good things during the game that were really kind of exciting to see him get on the big stage against a good team, national TV, big game, right? And but the guy that really probably just continues to be who he is. I know Bret gave me this, and he gives me meeting notes on Sunday, right? Illinois is 11-4 in one-score games over the last 3 seasons. There's one guy that's a common denominator most all those. I know we had one quarterback get in there, but 8 of those 11 wins were in the last minute or in overtime, right? So Friday we have an end of game meeting. I think I said this after the game, but Art and I were in there with our quarterbacks, and we kind of just walked out of there and smiled. And I said, well, we have another one. I feel really good about our guy, right? And ironically, right, he didn't really need his arm. We needed the ability to run the ball, and that was what was there. So probably couldn't even made it better at the end. I think that last spot was a little bit short, but I'd already used my challenge, so I couldn't use that one. But obviously the execution of our offense, and then obviously David to take advantage of that moment. We gave our entire MVP special teams wise to David. Crimmins as a holder, and the entire front and the protection. So really, really good moment there. So with that, open up for questions.
Identity-wise, what usually stands out about Barry Odom's clubs?
I would say defensively, he's, a defensive coach. And I think anytime, I literally, I just think when you see a head coach that's a defensive guy, they play different. In our conference, Dan and the way they kind of do things, I just have always kind of thought that, and I've definitely witnessed it. And Barry's the same thing. Very, very even when we went back to Missouri, it's fundamentally solid guys, really advantageous in big moments on defense. Changed a little bit from what they used to be defensively out there, but it's kind of evolved this year. They have 54 new players on their roster, so I think they're also in the discovery process as well. They had a bye week last week, so some of the things we've seen on film, but they're always going to be tough. They're going to play highly motivated. You see in the USC game, man, they're battling to the very end. A very, very high energy group and well coached.
Josh Truth mentioned that Bart and Barry coach really hard. You mentioned the offense. Can you peel back the curtain at all and give us some examples of what that week was with the coaches and players to get that outcome?
Well, first off, we played a road game, bus ride back, got back really late, right? And my message on Sunday was not to try to, dial back, but actually dial up, right? So we, on Sunday's meeting, on Tuesday's practice, we had as long a Tuesday practice as we've ever had. Heavy inside run drill, heavy team run emphasis, then a little bit more on Wednesday than we normally do. So I think the point of emphasis there, you saw some bigger packages that we, I thought if we got a little bigger, that would calm them down a little bit. Their front was very athletic and long, but they're just not real thick. And so I knew we could lean on them a little bit. That was a big statement all week, is we wanted to lean on them. My guys know what that means. So I think that was there. And then just the calmness Luke played with. But it started up front. He had a very solid pocket. There were several times where he could step up on the edge gushers, would push it by, and he just had a nice little pocket. Even when they brought some pressures, that was really there. So really just got hit the one time off the corner. I think we had one negative yard running play. There was a lot more affirmation up front about what we need to do, and that really stood out.
What would that mean for you guys to kind of rediscover the identity that's
Yeah, I don't know if it was rediscover or just reopen. We've always been talking about it. Obviously, anything that's been said or written about me or what I believe in, it all starts up front. Always has, always will. On the flip side of it, defensively we gave up some yards. I thought that was a very good high-powered offense, but I thought our defensive front did some things up front that kind of shut down the run game. And I didn't hear Aaron, but I do know we thought if we could shut off the run game and make them a little one-dimensional, we knew we were going to give up some yardage, but we thought we could be able to win the game, and obviously it worked out.
You mentioned Saturday the conversations you had with Malik and Sabur that went opposite directions.
Yeah.
Were there any others last week when they that sort of
I would say on a given week, I probably have on a small week 5 to a big week 15 conversations with different players. So I always talk to my players. There was only a couple that were around that conversation. I think it was pretty clear cut. I had been one of the things that I think that I'm not saying I'm any good at it, but I take a lot of pride in communicating. I talk about it. We've been talking about it since we started fall camp. We talk about building a routine, straining harder than anybody else, and communicating as best as anybody in the country. And we have a red shirt tracker. Ever since I've been a head coach, we just track guys. So before the year started, I had 110 players. Ended up being a little bit more than that because of injuries, but had 110 players, and I know 44 of those guys had red shirts, right? And so there's a category of first-year red shirts where guys that are coming in where it's kind of the normal way of thinking, and we have a whole list of, I believe, 20 or 22 other guys that had red shirts available, all the way from Xavier Scott and Gabe Ackus to a bunch of guys, Angelo, think about Joe Barnett, right? Guys that have years, and you can just kind of gauge where a kid is at and what might be coming up. And those were the two that I had kind of targeted for 2 weeks going into that week. I told my coaches, like, hey, I'm just telling you, these are the two that are coming. And I'll be game day. They were there, right? But I'd kind of laid the groundwork of where those were, right? Had a lot of great hugs after the game, but Sabor's mom, her niece, is standing right outside the door. And that kid thinks the world of his mother, as he should. And I think she was a big part of making him do what he did. And to see it manifest and play with over 45 snaps against USC was a pretty awesome moment. So that was a part of the head coaching job that really is very fulfilling.
What stood out about Ryan Brown last year? What do you remember taking on him, produce quarterback, and just how's the offense looking this year? What challenges?
Yeah, well, 3 things. I think quarterbacks that just speak with volumes about how confident they are. Like, it's very easy to see that's the way he plays, right? And then this year you can see it come out during moments of success, but also moments of adversity. I think he throws the ball very well. He runs the ball. He can do design runs, but also escape trouble. I think that's a really big one there. And I think now he's just played more football. He's making some improv plays and doing some things that you only get through experience. So a very difficult challenge. Obviously, like I said earlier, Barry, 54 new players, right? Those guys, after a bye week, I'm sure have really had a chance to kind of analyze not just the quarterback, but all the guys around him. He's got some very, very good players on the perimeter. I think their offensive line, tight end group, or do some things. That running back seems like he's been there for 5 years now. A really good player, very athletic, and a very difficult challenge for us.
This series, a rivalry game with a trophy, what's it meant to you?
Yeah. So probably, I talked last week a lot about reputation. Well, I would say my reputation is I'm a Big Ten guy, right? Played at Iowa, from Illinois, at a cup of coffee up in Wisconsin, right? So I've been in this league for a while, right? 3 different schools. One of the greatest things about our conference is the trophy games. I think when we were talking about realignment, even the first time, back in the early 2000s when we brought in a couple schools and added Maryland and Rutgers, and we brought in more schools, and then obviously brought in the 4 new schools. The trophy things always kept coming up, right? And then I think I've told a story. When I was a young coach at Iowa, I recruited Minnesota, and I wasn't married, so I took a picture with the Floyd of Rosedale. Thought it was a hell of an idea, but all of a sudden I realized I was posing with a pig, and that made its world around the circuits back then. And I can only imagine now with social media what would happen, but maybe it will now. But I think then I went to Wisconsin, and the Axe game was just huge. I remember they had lost it the year before I got there, so we won it. I was a defense coordinator, and I remember I was carrying it out in the parking lot, and it was like I was carrying like a lotto ticket, right? Like people coming up, taking pictures. Took us a while to get some trophies here, but I think Josh would tell you that this year we've had the hat and the cannon, and obviously the Cheez-It Bowl trophy. Those trophies were very popular on the circuit, and like people want to take pictures with them. So I think it's part of it, right? I think this thing goes back to the 40s. I think it's pretty even, right? 48, 46, and a couple ties in there, whatever it is. Like just the long history of it, and it's a part of something that comes before you're here, and it goes on after you're gone, right? And I think that's what makes the Big Ten really special and unique.
Right, you mentioned the 11.
The Mountain Drive on Saturday.
Mhm.
Multiple times, Barry joking to us today that we thought that they were one-dimensional. We ran the ball. Like they also mentioned that because you had 3 timeouts,
Yeah.
we could run our 4-minute stuff in this 2-minute drill. How key was that when you rewatched that? Is that kind of the identity of what you want?
Yeah, so they were trying to manipulate the clock a little bit there at the end, right? And they were letting it go down. And I actually, the mechanics that we have said not to use one before the 2-minute warning, right? Like let it go past 2-minute warning. But I just had this moment at like 2:05. I'm like, I tried to run out and hit a timeout, right? And I kind of did it on my own. They didn't see it, so I just kind of let it go. And then when they scored right away, I remember when I looked at the clock, and I'm like, I thought if we could give Luke the ball, and have more than 30 seconds, I thought we'd be in pretty good shape. To have whatever it was, a minute 30, I just felt really good. I turned around and looked at him, and he just kind of, put his helmet on, looked at me, and I knew what was going on. I knew what he was saying. Barry did have a conversation. I said, hey, man, we got a lot of time with these timeouts. They're going to play us for the pass. Let's think about running it here. And then obviously the PI kind of really changed it in a hurry too. But I thought it was just really good in-game awareness and moment by Barry. I thought he was really on his game. He's in really good connection with the players. I heard a lot of every time we went out on the field, Barry, one of the offensive goals last week was like a street fight mentality. They kept saying it, and I heard it, and I saw it, and I witnessed it. So I thought that was really good. Our keys to victory last week really showed up: offense, defense, special teams. The 3 that I had laid out there were, one of them was Big Ten physicality. That was goal number 3. Early down success was my second goal, and that really showed up offensively. We had a lot of big first down gains, like 18 yards, 20 yards, played ahead of the chains. Even if we had some 2nd and 8s, all of a sudden second down was a big hit. So defensively, for sure, that really, or offensive, for sure, that was a big part of it overall. So, and then I had 4 quarters of fundamentals, right? So, like some of those fundamentals in the run game, everybody's fundamentals are different, right? So my guards' fundamentals are different than my tackles. My tackles and guards are different than my tight ends, are different than my wide receivers. But there was just a lot of fundamental things there that made those plays happen on Saturday, which were huge.
Coach, I know it's just one.
Example of what you've been talking about with safeties and receivers coming over the middle. Then Miles Scott's first hit on the guy, he has to go low. The guy flips, lands on his head, but what is Miles supposed to do? So given the examples of the last 2 games, I'm just curious your thoughts on the whole targeting thing and what a safety has to do.
I literally was just on a Zoom call with the football oversight committee before I came over here, and there's a lot of conversations about the transfer window and 5 for 5 and all that goes into it. But I think on the field of play, there's probably not a bigger, in my opinion, moment than what we're in right now, because I think we have changed. Like I said last week, we've changed the behavior of our players. That's for sure. Everybody understands when you're leading like this or throwing at elbows up high, those are things that can't be tolerated and should be removed. But I do think there will be a day of not reckoning, but a little bit. I think we're very close to pushing through what it should be, right? Like maybe an intentional targeting versus an unintentional. Those bang plays. And Miles Scott has worked really hard to come back and play his senior year, and he had an entire game taken from him, right? And not only does it get taken from Miles Scott, guess what? I wish I had him in the middle of the third quarter, right, in Indiana, right? Like you're already out Xavier, and I know they had a couple DBs with a stomach flu. They're probably back on the practice field today. I've lost a guy for a year, like one of our best players, right? And guys got to step up. So hopefully that's going to come in full circle, and I think calmer heads and better thinking will prevail.
I was going to ask you,
Yeah.
the one-score games.
We'll finish with this.
Yeah.
11-4 since 2000. You mentioned Luke. Obviously, that's a big part of it. What's the key to coaching a team to wins and many close games?
I tell Josh all the time he's getting a good bargain, right? Like I'd say that because like there's one area that I think I've dramatically improved. It's just how to win games. And when I was in the NFL, there's a very big stat about one possession games in the NFL is even way higher than college football, right? And so you really had to get good at those end of half, end of game, situational football things. So I think if you asked our guys, we practice them a lot. And I think one of the things that our transfer guys come in and do. There was a play, Hudson Clement, I believe it was Western Michigan. He caught a play over the middle, and they ruled it a catch, but he dropped it. He literally stood up and gave a signal that tells us to run a ball as fast as we can, run a play as fast as we can. And we almost executed it. I think we did. Official said they got buzzed. I can't put a lie detector on them, right? So, but like, I asked that kid in the meeting on Sunday. I hadn't even talked to him. I said, "Have you ever done that before? Have you ever run that anywhere you've ever been?" He said, "No, coach, just that one day with you in fall camp." And I'm like, that could have been like one of the biggest plays of the game that day, right? And it's just that situational football awareness. We take a lot of pride in it as coaches. I think you would ask my coaches. I demand a lot of them in those areas, and players take a lot of pride in it. I think Luke's a walking example of it. I had no idea it was that many. My wife always gives me a hard time after the game, like she. On the field Saturday, she's like, "Oh my God, like that game," right? And I kind of think she does that every game, but I realize that she's done it a lot because it's happened a lot, right? That's 15 games, in a 3-year window that are decided by one score. That's a lot of games, and fortunately, we've been able to come out on top of that. But it doesn't happen by chance. Our guys do a really good job of preparing.
Thank you, guys.